She first loved with the reckless faith of a child who believed the world was a patchwork of promises. Aaliyah Mendes grew up at the end of a seaside lane where the houses leaned toward the harbor as if listening for a tide secret. Her mother scrubbed houses and stitched people's torn sweaters. Her father, long gone, left a name and the memory of a laugh. Aaliyah learned early that tenderness could be both a warmth and a currency. She learned how to fold hard days into neat, polite smiles so the world would not see the ache beneath them. Mara had been the warmth to Aaliyah's ache. They met in school under the gold-splattered eaves of the public library, Mara, quick and brilliant and lit by an energy that magnetized others, Aaliyah, quiet, an observer whose steady persistence earned her places on scholarship lists. They were inseparable in a way that made other friendships look like polite arrangements. They shared secrets in pencil-written letters, swapped clothes, and, when Aaliyah first stammered a crush, Mara buoyed her with conspiratorial giggles. The crush was Daniel Hale. He lived in a mansion of glass and marble with a garden that smelled faintly of money. Daniel's smile could sharpen into an invitation. He was everything Aaliyah was taught to avoid and everything her heart wanted anyway, charming, dangerous, the kind of man who could open doors with a look. He and Mara had known each other longer than either of them knew Aaliyah, and when Daniel began to notice her, the way he laughed at her jokes, the way he lingered over her hand, Aaliyah convinced herself that luck had finally found her. Luck arrived in the form of an internship at Hale Industries, the corporation that governed the skyline of the city and the rumors of those who lived on its higher floors. Aaliyah worked in the legal aid wing, small, meticulous tasks, but she carried herself as though walking through the grand halls of a palace. Daniel shadowed suits and polished glass, he was a rising star, and Mara became close to his inner orbit, a friend who knew the right names to drop and the right hours to keep. Aaliyah's world rearranged itself on a single gilded autumn night. A charity gala, Hale Industries' black tie blessing of their public face, glittered with chandeliers and 100 polite smiles. Daniel had announced his engagement to Aaliyah with a speech that made the cameras warm and Aaliyah's mother cry in joy behind a poker face. People celebrated the improbable union, a girl from the harbor and a man from marble. Mara's toast was perfect on the surface. She kissed Aaliyah's cheek and promised sisterhood. She raised her glass to friends made and futures baked as if by candlelight. Under that same chandelier, Mara and Daniel whispered in a language of calculations. Aaliyah did not overhear, because even when your life is the axis of 1,000 plans you are often the last person to see the gears turning. The night when the engagement was announced, a small vial of something clear found its way into Aaliyah's champagne. It was a slender breath of betrayal, enough to make the heart stutter, enough to quiet the laughter, enough to break into the fragile shell of trust Aaliyah had been carrying. She does not remember the pain. The world collapsed in a way she could not map afterward, later she would piece it together, Mara's hands, trembling with false worry, Daniel's face split between grief and a practiced mask, the paramedics who moved with professional efficiency. The hospital smelled of antiseptic and lemon and the way loneliness feels in fluorescent light. They told Aaliyah's mother the words doctors use when the body stops being useful to a life, we did everything we could. They wrapped the grief in polite condolences and went back to their houses of marble and plans. Death was however an interruption, not a period, and it was in that gray space, between the last inhale and the first memory, that something improbable happened. Aaliyah woke up days before the gala, but she woke with years of knowledge folded into her mind like a second language.